Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Yes, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how. PropSwap.com or download the Prop Swap app today. Andrew DiCecco, InsideTheBirds.com. Of course, we're going to start to take a look at the other divisions in the league. The AFC East is where we'll focus today with Andrew. It's the Bills, it's the Dolphins, it's the Patriots, and it's the Jets. And that division, Andrew, has essentially been the New England Patriots for 20 years. Last year, the Bills finally usurped them, but is it a rite of passage now that it will be the Buffalo Bills again? Do you look at that Buffalo team in the AFC East and say that they are finally the clear-cut favorite in that division?
Yeah, I think Buffalo is definitely the clear-cut favorite in that division. There's some continuity there with Sean McDermott, Brian Dable, the OC, Leslie Frazier, the DC, and Josh Allen's an ascending quarterback with young offensive skill players around him. Stephon Diggs is a terrific complement to his game. He likes to air their football out deep, and they have a young, fast-flowing defense to go with that.
You look at that Buffalo team. You mentioned their defense, which I want to dive into. But Josh Allen, you mentioned the other day you like him. I think we talked about as a top 5 quarterback in the league. You got Josh Allen backed up by Mitchell Trubisky there. But that's not all. I mean, Singletary as a weapon in the backfield, Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, they've got a lot of weapons here. And as you kind of talked about, that has really pushed Allen over the top from an erratic thrower to a guy who has turned into maybe a top 5 quarterback in this league.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to Brian Dable for working with him and scheming a system around his talents. And Josh Allen, when he came in the NFL, was a raw player, but he always had the tools, which is why he was selected where he was. It just was a matter of can he put it all together and become the quarterback that we think he can be, that we're using this, premier draft capital and bringing him in. And to his credit, to Josh Allen's credit, and to the coaching staff's credit, they've worked to sort of refine a lot of his skills, and now you're seeing him being one of the more prominent quarterbacks in the NFL. So,
yeah, there's no question that he has really. I mean, it's amazing where that team was, and Josh Allen was kind of a question mark, erratic thrower. And you mentioned, I think, on Friday's show about getting Stephon Diggs and that being a huge part of what happened there. But the quarterback's got to pull it all together. So offensively, they are a pretty solid unit. But defensively, though, this seems to be kind of an underrated defense. They don't have that huge name that jumps off the page, I think, for most of the listeners out there. But if they're going to win a Super Bowl, their defense, I guess, let them down a little bit last year. They're going to have to get a little better here.
Yeah, well, Tre'Davious White is probably the best, in my opinion, the best cornerback in football. He locks down one side. Teron Johnson's a fantastic nickel player. They have 2 safeties in Jordan Poyer, who I think might be one of the most underrated safeties in the National Football League. Micah Hyde's another good complement to his running mate back there. They also drafted DeMar Hamlin from Pitt, so he's there. Gregory Rousseau, he was more of a luxury pick, a defensive end for Miami, to provide some pass rush. I really think their lack of a consistent pass rush was really what held them back from becoming a Super Bowl contender last season. But you add him, now Starlet Tulele still there, Harrison Phillips, A.J. Epinesa the year before, the defensive end from Iowa, he's there. Ed Oliver's still a very solid player. He was their first-round pick in 2019, the defensive tackle. And Jerry Hughes can still play at a high level, and he's a starter there. So, they have a lot of guys.
Buffalo, I think, the favorite in the East. If someone is going to be the runner-up there, it seems to be the New England Patriots. A lot of people think that they might be the contender, maybe not the favorite, but for the first time not playing that favorite role. This is a different New England team than the one we saw last year, Andrew, but Cam Newton is back. Do you feel that Newton will be the quarterback of this team for the full slate unless he gets injured, or do you think at some point he will be replaced by Mac Jones?
Well, there's no doubt that Cam Newton is not the Cam Newton of old. Clearly is an evident regression in his skill set. But that said, I think he's still the best option to win the job out of training camp. Do I think he's going to hold on to that job? I don't think that he's a consistent enough thrower at this point. I think injuries have taken a toll on him. I think it'll only be a matter of time before Mac Jones takes over there. But I do think that you owe it to Cam Newton right now to kind of give the team the best. It gives them the best hope to get off to a decent start rather than turning the reins over to a rookie who probably isn't ready to step in there right yet. Cam Newton has enough the athleticism and a skill set enough to kind of grind out a couple wins early. But I mean, I think that ultimately his accuracy doesn't have a whole lot of zip on his throws anymore. He's banged up, so I think Mac Jones will probably get the call sooner than later.
Damian Harris, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. They brought the 2 tight ends in. Does Cam Newton, Mac Jones have the necessary weapons to make this a successful offense?
Well, there's going to be a lot of 12 personnel, and that's really what they need. Obviously, they have Hunter Henry there, Jonnu Smith, and the receiving core really isn't anything to write home about yet. They did add some pieces there in Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, who I think was underutilized in San Francisco. But Harry has not lived up to expectations, but perhaps he can kind of fill a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside type of red zone guy. I kind of equate those 2 players to similar situations. And then you have Jacoby Myers, who is more of a possession guy. He's going to get a lot of the receptions over the middle, keep the drives going, and I think he's a very sure-handed receiver. So their receiving core last year was probably among the worst in football, but now I think that you add the 2 tight ends, there's going to be a much more of an emphasis on 12 personnel and mixing and matching those receivers based on the coach. So, I mean, I think that they have a good variety there.
We're starting our division previews with Andrew DiCecco for football for the AFC East today. The Patriots defense, they had a lot of guys opt out last year, and it should be a little bit different defense. Gilmore, we'll see what happens with him. McCourty, they signed Mills. Van Noy's a guy they brought back. Hightower's there. Should the Patriots defense be better than the defense that really struggled last year?
Yeah, I think so. And what's really intriguing to me is that they have 2 younger players on the defensive line that are going to probably be in a reserve role, but they're going to be prominent rotational players in Christian Barrymore, who I thought was the only defensive tackle that warranted first-round selection this year in the draft. He went in round 2. Chase Winovich was a player who I really liked, the edge rusher out of Michigan from a couple years ago. They have those guys in the fold, but now they're not. I mean, in Chase's case, he won't be asked to take on the lion's share of snaps. He can kind of be more of a fastball off the edge. You mentioned Kyle Van Noy. Lawrence Guy's a solid player. I believe Matt Judon's there. So, I mean, they and then when you look at Dante Hightower as kind of holding things together at the second level, I think him and having Gerard Mayo there as a defensive coordinator is really you're going to see you're going to see that him sort of take over in that leadership role and just be that consistent presence at the second level and that leader. And then at the second level, or at the third level, I should say, you still have Stephon Gilmore and Kyle Duggar, who was more of he's like a hybrid safety linebacker from Lenore Ryan, and he was a player that I really liked last year in the draft. So they do have some pieces there as well.
All right, let's move over to Miami, who I find to be very interesting. This is a team that seemed like, they were the tank for Tua. They got Tua, and here they are now in his second year. What is, in your opinion, Tua? What is he? Is he a franchise quarterback? Is he a middle-of-the-road guy? Is he a guy that's replaceable? How do you view the Miami Dolphins with Tua?
Well, this year is going to be really telling because last offseason, if you remember, he was still recovering. He didn't really have – I don't know that he was quite at full strength. He needed to gain weight. I think his inexperience showed, but now you have a full offseason. Kind of like Jalen Hurts, you have a full offseason. You're able to build continuity with the guys around you. What I saw from him wasn't necessarily – it was very underwhelming and enough so where you don't want to just automatically say, yes, he's the guy, because I think if if a quarterback fell to them, I think they probably would have went that route or strongly considered it. But, I mean, we'll see. Give the guy a full offseason. He's healthy now, and he has a year to sort of look at what he was good at and what he struggled at the NFL level. And Now he's got a lot of playmakers around him. I actually think the Miami Dolphins are going to second in that division. I really like what Brian Flores has sort of built there.
Yeah, this team's interesting. They drafted Waddle. Gesicki's a very athletic tight end. Devonta Parker, you saw the Eagles fans saw what he was able to do against them. They brought Fuller in. So they do have some weapons on this offense with Gaskin as the running back there. But that Jalen Waddle and Tua, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic to see how those two pair back up. And, is this going to be a team that scores a lot of points? Are they like a high-scoring offense, or is that all dependent on the quarterback?
The pieces, the skill players are in place to have a high-scoring offense that can keep pace with just about anybody. But the question is going to be, can Tua take that next step, or is he going to be more of a game manager? Does he have the arm? Is he a guy or the arm to make all the throws, or is he going to be somebody that the OC tries to mask and try to win games like smoke and mirrors? We have to figure out if he's going to be that quarterback that can elevate that offense and really take that next step in his progression. Because right now we really haven't seen that the skills that warrant that sort of intrigue.
Looking at Miami in the AFC East, Andrew DiCecco, football at 4 here. I love what Flores, his energy and what they bring to the table. Defensively, Byron Jones, they made that signing last year. Howard, we'll see if they end up moving him or not. Eric Rowe, the former Eagle, their secondary is kind of interesting to look at. But defensively, this is that's what Brian Flores is known for. So is that the strength of this Miami Dolphin team, the defense?
It's more balanced now that they added guys like Waddle, and now he can sort of complement, and Will Fuller, who can complement Devontae Parker. Lynn Bowden, somebody who I think that they can utilize. They can find a role for. Remember, he was a running back, he was a quarterback, he was a wide receiver at Kentucky. So I think that there's a number of things that he can bring to the offense. They have a young offensive line. I really like Robert Hunt from Louisiana Lafayette when he was coming out. He's got another year under his belt. Austin Jackson's there at left tackle. Like they really built this thing the right way. But when I really look at their roster, Mike, I think that they've sort of built it. Now it's more balanced. I thought that they were very defensive. They were a defensive-oriented team before the season. But now I think that they've added a lot of players on offense to sort of complement what they already had. But I mean, when you look at Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis. They have Jalen Phillips, who they added from the other Miami pass rusher in the first round.
Right.
Javon Holland's a good free safety. One of my favorite safeties in the draft, I would say. He went a little bit higher than I thought, but he's going to be in the mix, playing alongside Eric Rowe. We'll see what Byron Jones can do. Jason McCourty's there as another veteran presence to sort of be a leader in that third level. And then Justin Coleman's a good nickel corner, and that's arguably one of the most important positions on defense in today's NFL. So.
Miami Dolphins, you picked them for second. It'll be interesting, as you mentioned. Tua, to me, is such a key for that team. He's really got to take a step forward. I read some reports that they're going to try to do more downfield passing with him, and that he did not have a good day trying to throw the ball down the field in some of the camps they had earlier this month. So we'll see. I think that team can go as far as Tua takes them. Now you go over to the Jets, who have been a disaster, as we know, Andrew. They took Zach Wilson, and he will jump in and start right away. Is this team, Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder, Tevin Coleman, are they built to help Wilson be successful right away?
I think the one key guy that you forgot to mention is someone who I think might end up having one of the biggest impacts, and Elijah Moore, the receiver from Ole Miss, because he can be that security blanket over the middle. He can do dynamic things out of the backfield. You can line him up all over the place, and he's going to create mismatches. He's an NFL-ready receiver. I think he's going to get out to some early success. So those will be fantasy football guys. I think he'd be a good guy to sort of bookmark at the end of those drafts as someone's going to find success. But, I mean, Corey Davis is coming off his best season as a pro. He's been a really streaky player. But, I mean, the receiving core has been, in the past few years with the Jets, has just been abysmal. I actually think that Jamison Crowder is one of the best slot receivers in the league. And if you look at the stats that he's been able to accumulate in his time with the Jets, he's been really consistent when he's been available. So I think he's another player that gets overlooked when you assess the wide receiver position in the NFL. largely due to the ineffectiveness of the Jets offense as a whole. But I'm just not a big Zach Wilson guy. I don't necessarily think that he will get off to a fast start as a rookie. I think he's going to endure some growing pains, but I do think that surrounding him with a veteran receiver like Corey Davis, getting him and a do-it-all receiver like Elijah Moore, and surrounding him with a very vastly improved offensive line, you got to give credit to Joe Douglas there. I think that's going to put him in a position to be successful. Now it's going to be ultimately up to him to sort of take the bull by the horns.
Yeah, they just brought Morgan Moses in. They drafted Ali Vera Tucker, who will probably slide into that left guard spot. So the offensive line should be better for the Jets. You mentioned Moore, who they did draft as well. So some young pieces mixed around, some veterans for Zach Wilson. Now on defense, this defense seemingly kept drafting the defensive front, Quinnen Williams. They've now got Vinny Curry over there. C.J. Mosley was a guy who was a pretty high-profile player. But defensively, what can we expect from this Jets team? If the offense is pretty good, let's say Wilson exceeds your expectations and they make them competitive, where's this defense in your mind?
Well, I think ultimately the first and second level are vastly improved, but I think that when you look at the secondary, there's still a lot of holes and a lot of question marks there. Son Austin, one of the cornerback spots, very inconsistent player. Bryce Hall was somebody who I liked. They drafted him in the 4th round last year out of Virginia, the corner. He was on a very fast track to being an early draft pick, but suffered an injury there in his last season in Virginia. So he sort of fell in the draft. But, see what he can do there. They're very young at that, and inexperienced at the cornerback spot. Marcus May is an underrated safety, and he's got Ashton Davis playing next to him. That's a good safety tandem. I think they'll sort of man the middle there and direct traffic, so to speak. And then we'll see what C.J. Mosley can do at the middle linebacker spot. He was somebody that they invested a lot of money in a couple of years ago. Got hurt in the opener against Buffalo, and they really felt his absence. They spent a lot of money to bring him in there and to be that sort of physical presence in the middle of their defense. And let's not forget they added Carl Lawson as well at right defensive end. He gave Jason Peters quite a fit in Week 3 last season, so I believe he had 3 sacks against him. So he's going to provide some juice off the edge as well.
2-14, the Jets last year. Obviously, they struggled big time. They will face the Eagles this year. That is the team the Eagles will face in that extra 17th game. A 2-win team, the New York Jets. What do you think of Salah as the hire?
I think he fits that identity, that hard-nosed mentality that's going to kind of bring that defensive presence to the AFC East, and I think he's really going to get the most out of a lot of the young players that he has there. Blake Cashman, the linebacker, he's a physical freak. Quinnen Williams, the young secondary. I think they're just going to have a new hardened approach to the way that things are done there, as opposed to the Adam Gase regime, where there wasn't a whole lot of leadership and the team was didn't really have a lot of direction. To be frank with you, I think right now you're going to see them adopt more of a physical, punishing presence with Robert Saleh at the helm.
Andrew DiCecco at DiCecco NFL, and we start our division previews today with the AFC East. It sounds like you say Buffalo, Miami, New England, the Jets is what you're looking at. I know it's we're in June, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, I'd say so. A lot can happen, but before entering training camp on paper, that's the way I have it.
All right, Andrew's back on Friday, and on Friday we will take a closer look at the AFC North. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh might be one of the more entertaining divisions in all of football. Next week we'll be on the South and the West before we flip over to the NFC, and that will lead us right into Eagles camp, which begins less than 1 month from today. Looking forward to that. Andrew, appreciate it, man.
You got it, man. Take care.
All right, Football at 4, Andrew DiCecco. It is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which drops Thursday at 6 a.m. with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher. Mosher's back tomorrow. Andrew back on Friday. Adam's here on Thursday's show.